Has anyone ever looked you in the eye and told you the unfiltered truth about life beyond 80? Not the Hallmark version with birthday cake and family gatherings. Not the soft focus photos of slow mornings and afternoon walks. I'm talking about the quiet, unscripted shift that creeps in once you step past that threshold. The kind of change that doesn't knock, it just arrives. At 81, Leonard, a retired carpenter from Idaho, once said to me, "People think you become invisible at 80. But it's worse than that. You start to see through yourself, too." He wasn't being dramatic. He was being honest. Life after 80 isn't just about aging. It's about witnessing layers of your world dissolve. Your circle of friends begins to narrow, not always from choice. Your body doesn't bounce back like it used to, no matter how strong your spirit still feels. Dependence tiptoes in quietly, even when your pride resists it. There's a strange silence when the phone rings less, when appointments outnumber invitations. Society, without meaning to, begins to move around you, not with you. And time becomes both a gift and a burden. But here's the truth most won't tell you: these are not signs of defeat. They are signals. Warnings, maybe. But also, invitations. In this video, we'll explore 5 unvarnished truths about life after 80, not to scare you, not to sadden you, but to prepare you. To hand you a lantern for a path that's too often walked in the dark. We'll talk about the shrinking of your social world, the slower healing of both body and mind, the quiet discomfort of growing dependence, the subtle erasure from conversations and communities, and the haunting echo of old regrets when paired with too much time and not enough purpose. Yet if you stay with me until the end, you'll see something powerful, that inside every uncomfortable truth is a deeper kind of strength, the kind that comes not from avoiding change, but from facing it with open eyes, steady hands, and a head held high. Because while the world may not always prepare us for this chapter, it doesn't mean we can't write it with courage. Let's talk about what really happens after 80, and how you can walk through it not as someone fading, but as someone still becoming. Truth number 1, the vanishing circle, when familiar voices fade without goodbye. It doesn't break your heart with a crash. It leaves with a whisper. One of the quietest and perhaps most surprising shifts that occurs after age 80 has nothing to do with aching joints or forgetful mornings. It starts in the background, almost like a song fading out mid-verse. And it's not your body that feels it first, it's your world. It begins when the laughter you once took for granted starts to vanish. Not dramatically. Not with ceremony. But subtly, like fog lifting before you even notice it was there. Friends stop calling, not because they don't care, but because they're gone. Some passed away. Others moved to assisted living. A few, simply unable to drive anymore, quietly disappear from daily life. That neighbor you'd wave to every morning? Their porch has been empty for weeks. The weekly lunch buddy? Now it's monthly, maybe. This isn't personal. It's time, doing what time does best, taking things away without explanation. Evelyn, a sharp-minded 85-year-old from Oregon, once told me, "You don't lose your friends all at once. It's like a slow fade in a photo. Every year, the picture gets a little paler. You wake up one day, and something feels thinner. The phone doesn't ring like it used to. Family visits get shorter, more rushed. The conversations that once filled your afternoons now echo into long, quiet evenings. And nobody warned you this would happen. In your 60s, even your 70s, there were still people to check in, still birthday cards, still spontaneity. But once you cross into your 80s, something shifts. You start outliving your community. You begin to arrive early to conversations that will never start again. I once knew a man named Raymond. For over 2 decades, he visited the same corner cafe every morning. The staff knew his order by heart: 1 black coffee, no sugar. Friends would join without texting first, it was understood. But then, they stopped coming. One moved closer to their children. One passed unexpectedly. One simply stopped driving. And one morning, Raymond told me, with a small, tired smile, "It's strange. I used to walk in and everyone knew my name. Now I'm just the old man with the empty table. This kind of loneliness isn't loud. It doesn't always come with tears or dramatic goodbyes. Sometimes, it's just silence that lingers after dinner. Or a walk that feels too quiet. Or a Sunday that stretches too long. You begin to notice your list of people who truly get me getting shorter. And that hurts in a way you didn't expect. But recognizing this isn't surrender, it's awareness. And with awareness comes power. You can still reach outward. You can still open new doors even as old ones close. Connection after 80 won't always knock at your door. You may have to go looking for it. A community group at your church. A book club. A handwritten letter. A weekly phone call that you make first. Maybe even inviting someone younger into your world, offering them your stories, your wisdom. Because connection now isn't automatic. It's intentional. And yes, it takes courage. But you've made it this far, which means that courage already lives in you. Truth number 2, the body that no longer bounces back, when rest isn't recovery anymore. It's not pain that frightens you, it's the unpredictability. When you step into your 80s, your body doesn't whisper anymore, it speaks loud and clear. What used to be fleeting aches now linger. Fatigue, once chased away with a nap, stretches across entire days. And perhaps the most jarring realization? Even the smallest health hiccup can turn your world upside down overnight. You might start the day feeling perfectly normal, just another Tuesday, nothing out of the ordinary. But by evening, something shifts. A strange tightness in your chest. A dizzy moment at the sink. A lingering cough that overstays its welcome. Suddenly, you find yourself under fluorescent lights, hearing words like observation, scans, or worse, admission. The tiniest mishap, one stumble, one skipped meal, one sleepless night, now carries consequences. There's no guarantee of bouncing back. Not the way you once did. But the hardest part of this chapter isn't the pain itself. It's the betrayal of your own predictability. You could do everything right, eat well, stay active, sleep soundly, and still, your body makes a decision without consulting you. I once spoke with a woman named Margaret, 82 years old. Spirited, witty, fiercely independent. She tended to her garden every morning, strolled the park in the afternoons, and ran a weekly storytelling group at the local library. But all it took was one misstep while trimming her rose bushes. I didn't break anything, she told me, but something still broke. It wasn't the fall that undid her, it was what followed. Weeks of enforced rest turned into months of lost energy. Her confidence slipped away, quietly. I thought I was just pausing, she said, but my body treated it like quitting. And that, perhaps, is the cruelest part. Rest no longer guarantees recovery. Sometimes, it triggers decline, slow, silent, and irreversible. And even when you do heal, something subtle remains altered. Your balance. Your stamina. Your breath. The comeback curve is steeper now, and sometimes, it doesn't curve at all. But here's where knowledge becomes strength. Once you understand this shift, you stop taking your vitality for granted. You become deliberate, not out of fear, but out of respect. You pace yourself, not because you're fragile, but because you're wise. Health becomes a discipline. Energy becomes sacred. And every pain-free day feels like a small triumph. You learn to conserve your strength like currency. You don't rush. You don't overpromise. And because of that, every step you take feels grounded. You walk slower, but steadier. You rest longer, but with intention. You listen more closely, not just to your body, but to the rhythm of your life. And somewhere along that path, you realize. Yes, your body may no longer rebound like it once did. But your spirit? It's still standing tall. If you've made it this far in the video and this message resonates with you, let me know in the comments below by writing the number 2. I'd love to know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider clicking that subscribe button and turning on notifications. Your support allows us to continue sharing meaningful, honest stories like this one. Now, let's keep going. Truth number 3, when help becomes necessary, and dignity finds a new shape. Independence doesn't vanish, it evolves. It doesn't happen all at once. Not with a bang, not with an announcement. The need for help creeps in gently, quietly, until one day you pause at the top of the stairs, hand gripping the rail just a little tighter, breath held just a moment longer. You still feel capable. You still are capable. But something inside you whispers, maybe, not this time. One of the most difficult realities after turning 80 isn't losing the ability to do things, it's realizing that doing them alone might no longer be wise. This shift isn't just physical. It's emotional. Especially for those who've spent decades being the helper, the caretaker, the provider, the problem solver. Suddenly becoming the one who needs a hand can feel like standing in unfamiliar shoes. It starts subtly. You skip the high shelves. You hesitate before driving in the rain. You leave that stubborn light bulb for another day. And sometimes, you hide the truth. You don't mention the fall. You brush off the fatigue. You smile through the stiffness in your shoulder. The craving for independence doesn't disappear, if anything, it intensifies. But independence after 80 wears a different face. It's no longer about doing everything alone, it's about knowing when to ask, and having the courage to receive. I once met a man named Clarence. 85, a former mechanic. Raised 3 daughters, fixed every broken pipe and engine in his home, and once built a tool shed from scratch just to prove he could. One icy morning, Clarence slipped on the driveway. No major injury, just a bruised pride. He didn't tell anyone. But his youngest daughter, Lucy, noticed something in his walk. So she began visiting weekly. Brought groceries. Stayed for coffee. At first, Clarence protested. "I'm fine," he'd grumble. But the visits became tradition. And one snowy afternoon, over cinnamon rolls and tea, he quietly admitted, "It feels good, not carrying everything by myself anymore." That's when everything changed. Accepting help didn't make him less independent, it made him wiser. Because asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a strategy for longevity. When you let someone drive you to a checkup, help carry a heavy bag, or assist you up a step, you're not giving up control. You're extending your time to do the things that matter most. And help doesn't always have to come in the shape of a person. It can be a grab bar in the shower. A stool in the kitchen. A timer on the stove. Small adjustments that protect your freedom, not take it away. After 80, one of the bravest things you can say might just be, "I could use a hand." Because the older you get, the stronger you become, not by holding on tighter, but by knowing when to let others in. By choosing peace over pride. Safety over stubbornness. And connection over silent struggle. Truth number 4, the day the world stops seeing you, and you must refuse to disappear. You haven't faded. They've just forgotten to look. It's not your body. It's not your memory. One of the most painful parts of aging isn't what breaks inside, it's what fades outside. It begins subtly, almost invisibly. The cashier looks past you to greet the person behind. The nurse talks to your daughter, not to you. The waiter assumes you can't hear, or can't choose, or don't matter enough to ask. At first, these moments sting. Then they multiply. And slowly, a terrifying thought creeps in, am I becoming invisible? Not to your loved ones, maybe. But to the larger world, the stores, the streets, the systems, you start to feel like background noise in your own life. That's the wound no one warned you about. After living through wars, raising children, working decades, surviving heartbreak, and building a life full of meaning, you're suddenly seen as fragile, quiet, forgettable. And here's the bitter irony, it's rarely out of cruelty. It's neglect. It's speed. It's a society sprinting forward, blind to the steady pace of those who carried it here. I once met a woman named Elsie. She was 86, a museum volunteer, sharp as glass, warm as spring. She lived through the historical events people came to learn about. One day, a young visitor asked the staff a question Elsie could have answered with her eyes closed. But no one turned to her. No one asked. When I gently brought it up, she smiled and said, "Oh, I'm used to it." But behind that smile was something else, a quiet grief. The ache of being treated like furniture, when you know you're still fire. You are not a decoration. You are not wallpaper. You are not past tense. You're here. Still thinking. Still feeling. Still adding value. And just because the world forgets to see you, doesn't mean you have to forget yourself. So what do? You speak. You ask questions. You cast your vote. You tell your stories even if no one asks. You give your opinion. You raise your voice even if it trembles. Because every time you make yourself visible, you're sending a message not just to others, but to your own soul. I still belong here. You are not invisible. You are a living archive. A keeper of wisdom. A voice worth hearing. And no, you don't need to shout. You just need to show up. Refuse to disappear. If this message resonates with you, leave the number 4 in the comments below to let me know you're still walking this path with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on notifications. Your support fuels our mission to share honest, human stories like this one. Now, let's keep going. Truth number 5, when regret knocks and purpose needs a new name. It's not the silence around you, it's the quiet inside that demands your attention. As you move deeper into your 80s, a strange stillness begins to settle in. Not just in your home. Not just in your daily schedule. But somewhere deeper, in the space between your thoughts. Life slows down. Appointments grow fewer. And suddenly, you're left with something you haven't had in years, time. Time to reflect. Time to rewind. Time to sit with the version of yourself that once rushed through decades without pausing. And that stillness can be beautiful. But if you're not careful, it can also turn heavy. Not loud or dramatic, just quietly weighty. It shows up in questions that whisper in the quiet. Why didn't I call him back that last time? Why did I wait so long to take that trip? Why didn't I say what I needed to say when I had the chance? Regret has a way of sneaking in when time becomes abundant, but energy, mobility, and freedom begin to wane. It doesn't shout. It lingers. And worst of all, no one talks about it. We celebrate the wisdom of old age, the freedom of retirement, the joy of grandchildren, and all of those are true. But beneath it, for many, there's a quiet ache that asks, now what? If you've spent your life giving, working, building, raising, fixing, helping, and then suddenly all of that pauses. You might feel like your purpose pressed the stop button too. I once met a man named Bernard, 88 years old. He had been a teacher for over 4 decades. A mentor. A man with a chalkboard and a room full of students hanging on his every word. And then, the classroom door closed. He told me once, I felt proud to have retired. But then, strangely empty. As if no one needed me anymore. But the truth is, that wasn't the end. It was simply a call to redefine what it means to be needed. Because purpose doesn't retire. It simply changes clothes. Maybe you're not building homes anymore, but you're building courage in your great-grandchild with a bedtime story. Maybe you're not managing meetings, but you're holding space for a grieving friend. Maybe you're not solving grand problems, but you're bringing quiet comfort to a neighbor just by smiling at their loneliness. The danger of regret isn't that you made mistakes, we all have. It's that you sit in regret, instead of turning it into something meaningful. And once you realize that purpose no longer needs to be about achievement, but presence, you unlock something powerful. You still have so much to give. Not just to others, but to yourself. Because the most sacred work you may do after 80 isn't about legacy or applause. It's about waking up each morning with kindness in your heart, curiosity in your eyes, and the quiet strength to ask, where can I bring light today, even just a little? That's not regret. That's redemption. And no matter how many candles are on your cake, it's never too late to light one more. Closing words, this is not the end, it's the deepest chapter. You've come this far. That alone is a quiet kind of triumph. Crossing into your 80s is no small passage. It's not just a number, it's a landmark. Etched by decades of devotion, heartbreak, perseverance, change, and grace. And with that grace comes a new terrain. One filled not just with strength, but with subtler challenges. Some so quiet, they slip in unnoticed. Others loud enough to make you pause. But facing these truths doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. It means you've lived long enough to see life unfiltered. Beautiful. Brutal. And still, breathtaking. So of the 5 truths we walked through today, which one echoed in your heart? Was it the shrinking circle of familiar faces? The ache of a body that no longer recovers like it used to? The quiet discomfort of needing help after a lifetime of giving it? The hollow sting of feeling unseen in a world that won't slow down? Or the emptiness of wondering what purpose looks like now? Whichever one it was, I hope you felt seen. Because here's the truth. You are not alone in this. Not in the slowing down. Not in the forgetting. Not in the nights that stretch too long, or the mornings that ask, and now what? And here's the good news. Even now, especially now, you still have the power to choose. You can choose connection over isolation. Rest over resistance. Asking over enduring. You can speak up when you're overlooked. And speak softly when someone near you is aching. You can forgive yourself for what didn't happen. And honor yourself for all that did. This chapter of life is not the epilogue. It's the most profound chapter yet. Where every word you speak carries weight. Where every gesture, no matter how small, matters more than ever. Where your presence, your patience, your perspective are your power. Thank you for spending this time with us. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below, share one insight you're taking with you, and how you'll carry it forward in your life. Your voice matters. Truly. And reading your words is what keeps this community growing and glowing. If this video brought something meaningful to your day, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who might need to hear it too. Your support helps us continue to create thoughtful, honest content for you, and for those walking this path beside you. Thank you. And we'll see you again, very soon.